2. Freedom or controls. Freedom of speech and of press are set forth in the First Amendment. In recent years, we have seen serious limitations placed on those freedoms by the courts. The courts have, in some decisions, seriously limited the press and its freedom. Radio and television are extensively controlled by the federal government. In some states, the securities commissions require all economic newsletters published in those states to be licensed. Now, we can argue with more than a little evidence that the press is often irresponsible and gives one-sided reporting. Most of us can recall very telling examples of this. We should remember, however, that the framers of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were well aware of this. Some of the newspapers of their day were worse than anything we can imagine. When George Washington was president, for example, some newspapers went far beyond all decency in attacking him. One especially vicious editor was Benjamin Franklin Bash, grandson of Benjamin Franklin. Bash claimed that the humble Washington behaved with all the insolence of an emperor of Rome. Among other things, Bash published a long attack by Thomas Paine on George Washington. Paine accused Washington of everything from fraud to murder, hypocrisy, and worse. Paine was an unbeliever. Washington fasted every Sunday and was a devout man. Nevertheless, Paine accused him of apostasy, and Bash published this and more. Now, the important fact is that neither Washington nor his administration moved to limit the freedom of the press. Why? The reason is simple. Any law passed is easily circumvented by the lawless. The end result of every restrictive law, whether control of the press or gun control, is that it will control the law-abiding, not the lawless. The law-abiding are always the most easily controlled because all their activities are open and above board. This is not all. Every law passed ends up meaning far more than the framers intend, because the courts place interpretations in every word that stretch the boundaries of the law and increase the powers of the state. But there is more to this. A controlled communications media and a controlled press only limit the freedom of responsible agencies. The irresponsible agencies are rarely affected. They never invest too much capital in any single operation and can easily shut down one operation to begin another. We may, with good reason, dislike much that exists in the press and all the communications media. However, if we limit their freedom, we also limit ours. Laws created to control do not stop controlling, they simply increase their sway to unrecognizable lengths. Some years ago, a small Indian tribe on an isolated western reservation had its ancient treaty rights to hunt at will revoked. The reason for it was that the wild ducks they hunted travelled both interstate and internationally. Controls are a poor substitute for responsibility. The whole point of our Christian faith is to foster the new man in Christ, a responsible man. George Washington preferred freedom to controls and therefore did not consider controls over a lying, libelous press. Our biblical emphasis on responsibility has gone a long way towards making the United States a great nation. Today, the world generally is choosing controls rather than freedom as the way to a good society. The world's solutions to all problems is seen as another set of laws or controls. Instead of bettering things, the controls only worsen them. The choice is before us: freedom or controls.